Cool. Awesome. Okay. All right. So let's continue on. Okay, so that was homework. Great. I'm glad that you guys are starting to use this stuff. This is fantastic. Let's talk about BotSpot. All right. So before we get back into Claude Code, which I know you guys all want to keep talking about, we also have a website. So I want to show you guys the website, show you kind of how everything works, what's there, what are some things you could do on the website. So things you could do, you could deploy and monitor algorithms. You can back test. We have our courses on there as well. We're going to be fixing up the way that the recordings come in. You can share strategies. We have a marketplace, and we have, of course, the AI agent that you can talk to. Right. So some of the basics. Let me go through this back to this page, details page. Okay. So let's start off with the chat area. Okay. So let's say you log into BotSpot. Okay. The way they can get to it is you can either talk to it through here, through this text box, or you click on Create AI Strategy, and that's going to take you to this big chat box, and you can basically talk to it about whatever you want, right? We have tabs at the top here, Chat History Strategies. So you see your historical conversations. Not every conversation has a strategy associated with it, so you can actually look at even just like regular conversations you had that had nothing to do with strategies. Or if you're looking for strategies in particular, you can go here and you can look at them there as well. I think sometime soon we're going to start changing a little bit how our chats work so that one chat can talk to multiple strategies at a time. But right now it's one to one, right? If a chat has a strategy, it's only talking about the one strategy at a time. Eventually we're going to loosen that so you can have, multiple strategies. So you can compare one strategy to another and do all that kind of stuff. But that's in the future. All right. So you got your chat, you got your stuff up here, and also down here, this is more relevant for mobile, but down here you can switch between chat or preview mode. Right? Preview mode shows you all this stuff over here on the right hand side. So let's say if we want to do something, we'll say, make a strategy that trades Palantir, right? I'll tell it to do that. Usually when I give it something that vague, it's going to ask me more questions. That's an exciting idea. Palantir is very popular, yada, yada, yada. I could answer its questions. What's your style? What triggers? I could just say, make me something that will be profitable. Okay. And you'll see it's going to go off. Basically, it's very similar to ChatGPT, right? And then you see the assistant going back and forth, right? Okay, you can see thinking messages in between. You can kind of see what it's doing if you're curious. I'll say just make it. It's trying to ask me all these things, which I don't really care about right now. And you see that goes into thinking. You can see it's processing a request, and you'll see all the different things that it's doing, right? In this case, it's generating my strategy. You see a little tool call there. So you can actually read like what it's thinking, right? So the user wants me to do this, literally just said just make it, blah, blah. I need to use this tool. And it goes off, calls generating your strategy tool, and then it'll come back to me, and you'll see that the right-hand side all gets filled in once that's done. All right. Let's see, so we talked about chat history, chat search. So, okay, so there's a bunch of things that the agent can do, and this is actually growing really fast. This is the list of things that were possible a few months ago, but now it's like it could do a lot more than this. But you could talk to it, obviously. You can get it to search things for you. So if you say, um, search the news around Palantir. Right, it'll actually use Google search and search this stuff for you. It can come back and you can have a conversation around that stuff as well, which could be quite useful when you're building a strategy or doing some sort of analysis, right? It could like search, like very often we'll say search for, what are very good option strategies to trade on this, right? Or search for what happened in the news or search for whatever, right? There's a lot of reasons why you'd want to do that. A lot of times we'll do it automatically, but if you tell it to search for something, it will usually go off and use that tool. So let's see, what is it doing here? Yeah, searching the web for Palantir stock news, April 2026, right? Okay, and then came back and said Palantir is currently in a very interesting spot. Earnings are coming. Everyone's looking forward to Q1 earnings. That's interesting. Big government projects are busy working on major projects like Army's Titan program, which they won the last couple of years. Business is growing, profitability, et cetera, et cetera. Right? There we go. Cool. So that's that. You have chat, you have search. We saw it generate a strategy. You can also get to refine a strategy, which I don't know what the heck just happened there. That was weird. I don't know why I all of a sudden got logged out. That's very strange. All right. Hey, here's my Palantir strategy. Now that it's generated, once I generated once, I could tell it to change something. It's like, you know what? Actually, make it trade Google instead. Right? And I could tell it to change that. That's basically what we call refining a strategy or modifying a strategy. Right? So there we go. You got all that. Cool. Okay. So you can chat, search, generate a strategy, refine a strategy. You can start a back test, right? We'll get it to run a back test as well. We'll say run a back test. Right? You can either click on the backtest strategy button, which will basically talk to the AI for you, or you could just like literally type to it and say run a backtest. And you could specify, from this date to this date or over the past year or whatever. It's very good at understanding language.
So if you don't tell it a year, then what would it do? Like if you don't tell it how far back to go.
I think it defaults to a month.
Okay.
Okay, so say
Now
so run a backtest.
was was that coded in that you had to train to default to a month and does it on its own?
Yeah, I think we have it in the system prompt to default to a
Okay.
month.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't always listen, so sometimes it's a little off. But yeah, it'll default to a month. But then if you tell it to backtest over a specific date range, then it'll usually remember that date range and keep doing that. So it's pretty smart. It'll kind of figure out based on the context and things like that too. Like for example, I was helping out a client today, and one of the strategies, the backtest, didn't match what actually happened with them yesterday. So I kind of gave them like, okay, well, these trades don't match up, whatever. And the AI just started running backtests by itself and only for yesterday, right? So it's smart enough to figure that out, right? Okay, so it's starting up a back test here. We can see it's waiting for capacity. That means that there's a bunch of other people running back tests as well. So it might take a minute or two to find capacity first, and then it'll start back testing.
And what model is running to create this?
So the chat itself is using Gemini 3 Flash. You can actually, if you go over this eye thing, you see what it is, right? Gemini 3 Flash preview with thinking set to high, right? That's what's using here. Right? And then in terms of the generating of strategies, we use Codex, ChatGPT's Codex, right? For whatever reason, it's just better at coding. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So it generated this code. For some reason, it didn't trade. So we're going to hit fix using AI. You can click on that. When you hit fix using AI, you'll notice it just sends this message to the AI. It says the backtest completed but returned 0% with likely no trades executed. Please analyze the strategy, why the strategy didn't trade, and fix it. Okay, so now I can go in and you'll see here that this thing's actually quite good at analyzing backtests, right? So once you run a backtest, you could ask it things like you can say, why didn't it trade, right? Or you could say, why did it trade on Tuesday but not on Thursday? Or, what were the most profitable trades? What was my win rate? You could like ask it all those things and it can do all that for you because it's using all these different tools here, right? So these tools, you can see that used quite a few to come up with this answer. If you scroll through it, you can see it thought a little bit and then it listed all the back tests and then thought a little bit longer. Then it retrieved indicators again, inspected the strategy code, right? Then it queried the indicators and then it came up with something and then put all this stuff together. And this is what it said. Right, so strategy was running perfectly, but it was waiting for bullish crossover. During the entire month of March, Google was actually in a downtrend. Okay, okay, so let's run a longer backtest. Right? So I could basically tell it stuff like that, right? You don't have to be very specific. You don't have to say from this date to this date or whatever. Like it understands the context, understands what's going on here. Okay, I see it wasn't long enough for that, so it will go in and actually run a longer one. And let's see over what time period. It says from October 2025 till April 1st, 2026. All right, and that should actually trigger this. Right, so you see how I could like interact with this AI, right? And not only is it running back tests for me, generating code for me, it can help me answer questions. It could do a lot of very sophisticated stuff, right? That normally you'd probably have to pay a lot of money for a quant to do this, but it can actually do it all for you. All right. Any questions around that? Oh, and it could analyze backtests as well. It could analyze an actual deployed strategy too. So if you're like running a strategy and it didn't trade yesterday, you could literally just ask, why did my strategy not trade yesterday? It should have traded because of X, Y, and Z, and it can analyze all that for you, go through all the logs and figure it out and tell you, well, it didn't trade because of this, this, and this, and here's the solution, right? Cool.
Is it looking at the broker logs or is it looking at the signals that was triggered?
So it's looking at the logs for the strategy itself. Right.
Okay.
So when we run a strategy, it produces logs from the
Yeah.
code, right? And it will look through those logs. Um, Something that we're adding in, I don't know if it's live yet or not, but it should also be able to check your open positions and your orders and a bunch of other things like that as well,
Okay.
right? I just don't, I'm not sure if that's live or not, right?
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And then this is some new stuff that happened here. It's still not trading. We can kind of go back and forth with it and say, it's still not trading. Actually, let me do that. Fix this back test. In the meantime, we'll let it do this. So back test completed, but returned 0%. Da, da, da. Okay. So it didn't trade, but you could see here that it did produce a bunch of charts and stuff for you. So you can see that it produced Google. This is Google right there. And then you can see the EMAs, EMA 50 and EMA 20 and the RSI, right? And you could actually like pinpoint it. You could say, okay, well, what do you mean? The EMA 20 is above the EMA 50. Why did that not trade? Right? And then is it looking for a specific RSI or something like that? Like you could visually interpret it very easily here. And you could actually zoom in, zoom out, and something really cool. You don't have it here because there's no trades, but you could actually draw on this chart. Okay, so for example, I could draw this, I could draw a circle here like that, and I could actually ask AI and say, why didn't it trade here? Right? Specifically for that part of the graph. Okay, and I could ask the AI agent. Okay, and then here, backtest context version 2, I marked one area on the chart, right? It basically sends over and is asking this question about like, why did it not trade in this spot, right? And then previously it also said, the starting line problem when the test started, Google is already in a strong uptrend. Your strategy is specifically waiting for a new crossover. Since the lines were already in the right spot, the trigger never happened, right? Okay, and then when I circled this thing here, it said, I've analyzed the data from this spot. The data from indicators confirms that your strategy was working exactly as coded, but the market conditions didn't trip the buy wire. No fresh crossover. RSI was too hot. Okay. Right, so basically told me all that. Okay, so I could say, okay, fix it so that it actually trades and makes money. Right? I'll just say to do that. And I should fix it. It might take the liberty to also rerun the back test as well. I could have just written that. I could say fix it and run the back test. I could just say that and it will go ahead and do that for me. All right, so it's inspecting all the stuff and it's going to go and make those changes. All right. And then, of course, at the bottom here, you see all of your previous back tests as well. So if you want to switch between them, This is the one that we ran from March to April, right? And then this is the one that we ran from October to April. All right, cool. Any questions around that?
Yeah, so you just saying that, fix it so it makes money just seems very way too simple. Like, do I, should you get a little bit more technical or give the benefit of the doubt to the AI and just say, fix it to make money?
You can do both, right? I very often will ask it, like, make this more profitable, and that actually does work pretty often.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it'll go through all of your code. It'll say, okay, well, this it lost money on this trade, it made money on this trade. It will analyze everything, and it can actually give some pretty good tips on that, you know? So, I mean,
Yeah, I've
getting
done
more,
this a few times and it's like it'll fix it, it'll adjust it, but then like, I'll run the back test and the annual return will just get worse and worse and worse. So then I literally have to go back to version one and start from scratch again.
yeah, I mean, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. As AI gets smarter, it's going to get better and better at this, right?
Yeah.
Um, There's actually a new AI. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there's this new AI that Anthropic is going to come out with soon. They actually gave it to a bunch of security researchers. They said they're not making it public because it's too powerful and could be a danger to the world, is what they're saying. Just kind of crazy.
Wow.
But it just like blows away all the benchmarks. It's probably the biggest leap in AI performance gains since like ChatGPT 4, GPT 4. When those kind of models start to come out, our stuff is going to keep getting smarter as well. Yeah. Okay, so I fixed the strategy, run the back test again. Right? Why I didn't trade before, technical details. Right, there we go. What I changed is jump in on trends instead of waiting for the fresh crossover. The strategy will now enter a trade if it's there, right? Make money on the way down. I added a shorting logic. If Google starts trading down and the RSI is above 30, the strategy will sell the stock short to profit from the drop. That's interesting. And I came up with that on its own. Then bi-directional exits and then risk management. So we have a 5% take profit and 2% stop loss. Interesting, right? Cool. All right. Any other questions around that? On any of this mechanism here? There you go. Now it's actually trading. It's not making money, but it is trading. Yeah, this is trading a lot. Got in and out, in and out. Right. And actually, another thing you do, this is a feature we added too. You could like actually click on a trade and you could say, explain this trade using AI, and it'll actually tell you like why it bought it and why it sold it. Right. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. In this case, what I would normally do is I'd say, um, this is not making money. Why? How do we make it more profitable? Fix and back test until you get it to be profitable. Right. And sometimes when you tell it stuff like this, it can actually even go in a loop. I'm wondering whether that will happen here. Um, because back tests are so fast, this back test only took 49 seconds. Right? So what it could do is actually modify the strategy, back test it, see if it did better, fix it, back test it again, see if it did better, fix it, back test it again. It could actually go in a loop like that until it actually figures it out. There's a time limit of 10 minutes for these conversations. So it could go for quite a, sometimes actually, I don't know if we fixed that. We might have fixed that. Actually, that bug before. It used to be that if it went over 10 minutes, it would have just stopped. But I think we've gotten it to be better than that now. So here it goes. So it's refining the strategy. Now we'll see if it actually back tests and then checks and all that.